One. Hey, good afternoon. This is Mark Brody with Coffee Talk with Brohawk today. And I am very honored and pleased to have as my guest on today's episode, Felicia Johnson of the Gatson Group. Felicia, welcome. And can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Well, hello there, Mark. Thank you so much. So good to see you, and thank you again for the opportunity to share a literal cup of coffee with you. So, hello.
Yes.
So yes, again, Felicia Johnson. I am the founder and managing director of the Gatson Group, which is a full service diversity and inclusion consulting practice. We are based in Dallas, Texas. However, we certainly serve clients throughout the country, as well as clients working in a variety of industry. Prior to stepping out on a whole lot of faith about 4 years ago and starting my own practice, prior to that, I had the pleasure of serving as the global manager for diversity for the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company in Akron, Ohio. Prior to that, I served as the head of diversity for Cabela's in Sidney, Nebraska. And prior to that, I was the co-lead of diversity at Nissan North America in Franklin, Tennessee. So again, about 4 years ago, just decided to take all of that experience and move a little bit closer to home. Was born and raised in Louisiana. And so I have family, in Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, definitely in the South. And so just sort of wanted to bring it back home. But I've really been blessed to this point and looking forward to continuing to make impact in this space of diversity and inclusion. So again, thank you for the opportunity to have this chat today.
Oh, I'm honored and one of the things that just screams with your resume, with your background is you haven't done this type of work with small companies. I mean, this is really having an impact on a lot of people, the work that you do, and a lot of positive impact,
Yeah.
with the work that you do. Um, so with a focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, what are you seeing that where companies are kind of missing the mark in their DEI initiatives? And just generally what you're seeing out
Mhm.
there or in some situations that you've run across in over your career.
Yeah, Mark, that's a great question. Some organizations, from my experience, personal experience, as well as observation, have a tendency to miss the mark for a couple of reasons. And certainly, again, this is just Felicia's interpretation, okay? So, number one, oftentimes I see that it is because of a lack of focus and definition, meaning not really having a clear sense of not only what we're doing, but why are we doing it? Are we doing it because it's been a directive from the board? Are we doing it because of a story that we saw on television? Are we doing it as a result of, some type of social issue and so forth? And those are great reasons to do something, but we want to
Mhm.
make certain that we align, what we're doing with a strong why we're doing it. Another thing that I see, Mark, that companies have somewhat misdirected themselves is they don't communicate what they're doing, right?
Mhm.
They don't communicate it properly. So, for example, if you have a diversity and inclusion initiative in your organization, I really should be able to knock on the door of your hourly employees or your manufacturing employees all the way to your C-suite and ask, well, why are you doing this? What's behind it? And I should get the same story. I should get the
Mhm.
same response. But if I'm getting responses all over the board, like, well, we must have been sued, or, somebody just told us this was what we needed to do, that might be problematic. And then the
Yes.
other thing that I will add in terms of, what I've seen in terms of companies maybe missing the mark is really having a defined and, for lack of a better term, definition or understanding of what diversity, equity, and inclusion means to their organization. Okay.
Mhm.
What does it represent for your organization? One thing about this
Yes.
work, and the people that do this work understand that one size does not fit all. And so you
Mm,
have to
true.
really know where you are as an organization on what we call the diversity continuum. Are you at the
Hmm.
beginning stage, or are you an advanced organization, or are you somewhere in between? So I
Yes.
will just sort of close that question. Again, it's a great question, but I would just encourage organizations to really take a look in the mirror and assess where you are and then go from there.
One of the things that resonated with me with that answer, Felicia,
Mm-hmm.
was understanding the why.
Mm,
You know,
yeah,
and do you see, or have you come across companies, um, clients? I don't want to call out any clients or anything like that, but just in general, where it seems like
yeah,
a DEI initiative is nothing more than a mural on the wall,
yeah,
and not really they don't really have a grasp of the why they're doing it,
yeah,
and hasn't they really haven't been inclusive of their teams,
yeah,
to understand, so that everybody has a part in the why.
yeah.
Is that something
So
you see?
yeah, I have, unfortunately. So, a couple of things. So, number one, um, I certainly saw, along with, again, I think everyone saw a tremendous amount of movement in this space after the murder of George Floyd. And so
Hmm.
there were, I think there was like statistics, maybe 300% increase in jobs in this space. They may have been chief diversity officers, or VPs, directors, senior directors, some. And literally, if you wanted a job in D&I, you could get one, right?
Yep.
They were just that plentiful, during that time. And so a lot of organizations, held various listening sessions with their employees, really leaned in terms of, how employees were feeling and so forth. So with that being done, the danger though, when doing something like that is that you them to be vulnerable. They are vulnerable. You take their input, you listen to what they're saying, but then you don't do anything about it. You don't do
Mm,
anything with it, right? You don't
yes.
establish any type of professional development ladder. You don't develop any type of internal programs to where, the talent that you have right now, can
Yep.
actually grow. And then also, you had a lot of organizations bringing on diversity practitioners, again, hiring managers, senior managers, directors, VPs, CDOs, chief diversity officers, but then you didn't give them any resources. You didn't
Hmm.
give them a head count, and you gave them
Yep.
$100 and expect them to part the Red Sea with that. So, right? I mean, it just doesn't work that way. But on the other
Exactly.
side of that, Mark,
Hmm.
I also saw where companies initially sort of, went through the motions, right, because of the
Yep.
board or because of public perception, and
Hmm.
they thought that they were going to just go and sort of hang something on the wall. But then they got in there and said, "Wait a minute, I think there may be something to this DE&I stuff."
Hmm.
Right? They began to actually align diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts with, wow, this could actually result in increased market share for my business, right?
Hmm.
Stronger retention amongst my employees. And so that's the
Yes.
good on the other side of that I've witnessed and experienced as well.
That is awesome. I mean, the I would agree with you. I mean, a lot of what I was hearing and seeing, back, after George Floyd and Ahmaud
Mm-hmm.
Arbery, I mean, two really, really high profile instances
Oh, yeah.
of abuse, abuse of power, and really a situations where there really were two different justice systems, that were out there. um the there was so many people that were focused on wanting to understand, and I remember having a conversation with somebody, and and what resonated for me was exactly what you just said. It's not about just having the conversation, it's about the actions that you take,
Mm-hmm.
as a result of the conversations. So,
Yeah.
regardless of, um, any particular group or category of individuals, that's the more actions that can be taken,
Hmm.
in a positive way within a an organization. And it's
Hmm.
not just about hosting an internal day or a month, or creating a committee within an organization. But what are some things that companies and organizations, both large and small, what else more can they be doing to really lean
Hmm.
into DEI?
Yeah, great question. And before I answer that, let me just piggyback on something that you said about, the efforts of what a lot of organizations take, the efforts that they take. Inclusion, always say that um, everyone should be a beneficiary of inclusion. Okay,
Mhm.
you don't reserve inclusion for a certain group of people. Oh, that's just for
Correct.
this. No, every single employee is deserving of an inclusive experience.
Yes.
Every single employee. So if you are creating diversity and inclusion efforts that target one particular group, might want to give me a call, right?
Exactly.
The preferred way to do it. Now, having said that, are there groups and populations that certainly have unique challenges? Absolutely. I'm here for that all day long. I get
Yep.
it. I've been, personally experienced a lot of that. But I promise you, if you want your efforts to be sustainable, build them on the premise that again, inclusion should benefit every single employee.
Exactly.
So
I
so
love that.
thank you. With regard to your question about, certain days or celebrations, those events certainly are more than critical, right?
Hmm.
To build and support your organization's culture. What I would say to that, Mark, is please do not stop at that. Let that be part of your overall efforts, right? Whether it's recognizing Pride Month, maybe supporting strategic philanthropic causes, Women's History Month. We've got Veterans Day coming up. We're in the midst of Hispanic Heritage Month, Black History Month. All of those celebrations are critical, but again, they should be part of an overall strategic plan that
Hmm.
embeds diversity and inclusion in every single facet of your organization, including how you do business, how you market your product and service, right? How you
Hmm.
create your products, your marketing message. What am I seeing when I go to your website? Who am I seeing when I walk into your boardroom? So again, all of that plays a critical role.
You know, it the who am I seeing, and
Mhm.
being able to visualize yourself out there in the public, regardless of gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, regardless of what it is, being able to see um, people like you um, is so important, and it creates a much higher level of self-esteem, self-worth.
Mhm.
um, and we're starting to see that in a lot of um, historically marginalized communities,
Mhm.
and a lot of companies are really leaning into that.
Yeah.
um, and I think it's so important, um, because if you have people that don't feel that they matter,
Mm.
they're not going to want to come work for you, for one.
Well, and not only are they not going to want to come and work for you, let's also sit on the people that currently work for you. I
Hmm.
promise you, they're not giving you 100%.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
So don't even worry about the people you don't have yet. Let's talk
Yeah.
about the people you have. So, right? So again,
Yes.
for a person that may not feel included, maybe they feel as if they don't belong. Maybe they feel as
Mhm.
if they can't truly be who they really are. Maybe they're afraid, right, to put up a picture, of their family that, is a same gender
Mhm.
family, or, something to that effect. And so again, I can assure you, you're not getting 100%. Guess what that's cutting into? Productivity. I don't
Hmm.
have to be the CHRO to know that there is a cost associated with not only a loss of talent, but a loss of engagement.
Yep.
So there is a cost to exclusion.
Um, so true. I mean, um, we're both here in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
um, and there are so many stories out there in this state, where people are um, being excluded for a lot of reasons or being investigated for a lot of reasons. Not just adults, but families, and it's unfortunate to see, because I don't think um, that's the trend in this country. I mean, and hopefully, we don't want to get down that political rabbit hole at all. We could probably have hours upon hours of those types of
Right.
conversations.
But
So
but you know what, Mark? I will say this though, and certainly not. I'm not going down that at all. But
yeah,
but do me a favor. You raise your I think your left arm here. And put these two fingers right there.
yep.
And that you feel that pulse.
Hmm.
You know what that means? That means you matter.
Yes,
That means you matter,
yes.
Mark. And I'm telling
Hmm.
you, regardless of a person's role in their organization, regardless of whether a person has a job, whether you at the either the CEO or on the janitorial staff, you matter. And every
Yes.
student in every school, they matter. They
Hmm.
have a pulse, they matter. And so again, I just believe that, if we could just lead with that, if we could
Hmm.
just lead with that, I really think that it would open up an opportunity to have a conversation where we are actually talking to one another and not at one another.
That is so true.
Yeah.
And hopefully a conversation that has actions tied to the end of the
Yes.
conversation. What are
Yes.
we going to
Yes.
do next?
Absolutely.
So, Felicia, if a company is going to look at a DEI initiative as an organizational priority,
Hmm.
but they're just not sure where to begin. They're, on that diversity continuum that you were speaking
Hmm.
about earlier. They're right at the beginning. They know they want to do something. They know they need to
Yeah.
do something, but they just don't know where to start. Where
Yeah.
would you advise them to begin?
That's a great question. And I'll tell you, I'll answer that by answering it in terms of what I've done. So I've had organizations come to me and literally say, we don't know where to start. So one of the things that I always recommend is if you don't have a dedicated resource for diversity, and even if you do, start with a conversation in terms of why, right? Why are we even considering this? Is it because we want to, penetrate a market that we haven't, been representative in before? Is it because we want to create a product, right, or a service, that would benefit a certain demographic or community that we maybe have not considered before? Or maybe we want to see an increase in representation, say, of, female leaders, at senior
Yes.
director level and above. And how do we do that? So again, it always goes back to the why. Don't just come at me about what you want to do. I need to know
Yep.
why you want to do it. Because again, if you're clear on the why, it's going to make it easier for the organization to get behind it. And then it's also going to make it easier for it to actually be sustainable. So
Yes.
begin with the why. Also, Mark, another thing that I recommend organizations is have a clear, again, for lack of a better term, definition. And I keep saying that because if I went out here on the freeway and asked 15 people how would they define diversity, I would get 15 different responses, and every one of them would more than likely be correct. Okay. So, there
Hmm.
may not be some universal definition, but I say all that to say, be clear on how your organization views diversity and inclusion. Because if
Hmm.
you've got people that are simply thinking that it's about race and gender or, something like that, then we need everybody to come in a little bit closer and say it for the people in the back can hear it. That it's that it's about so much more than that, right? So be clear
Yes.
on the why, and then how do you define for your organization what diversity and inclusion is. I think if you can start with those two steps, then you have a chance of putting something in place that will not only work, but will be sustainable.
Sustainability is so important. That takes it from the mural on the wall to something that's embedded in the culture.
Yeah,
And that isn't that really the ultimate goal of any initiative
it
within an
is.
organization.
And I'll tell you something else too, Mark. This work, if you're going to do it, I beg of you, do it right. Okay? Because I promise you, your employees and your customers know, you know, okay, I wasn't going to say this, but I'm just going to say it. Your people and your employees know game when they see it. So
Hmm.
you got to be
Yep.
real in this space. You have to be authentic in this space. Your methods, your reasonings, your actions really need to be authentic and pure. Because if you're
Hmm.
just doing them from some, place of compliance, or, you're being forced to do it, or, well, this is probably what we're expected to do.
Hmm.
Again, if I come back in 5 years, are you now posting the job again? Or in fact, in this case, maybe even be 5 months that you're posting the job again, right? So,
Exactly.
if you're posting these positions over and over again, you might
Hmm.
want to just sort of sit down and say, wait a minute, what might we be doing wrong? So again, when I, again, just again, that's the authenticity part of it has to be real, because this work is it's too important. It's too important. It is too important, not only to, your organization, but to what I call your most valuable asset, and that's your people. They deserve it.
And in the contact center world, there's definitely been a push for a number of years, not just to
Mm-hmm.
get the voice of the customer to improve
Mm,
the customer experience, but also to get the voice of the employee to make
that's
sure that
right.
employee experience is met first, especially over the last
Yeah.
couple of years with the great resignation, quiet
Yes.
quitting. If you're not leaning in, and this is why I'm saying this, I love
Mm-hmm.
what you just mentioned. Your most important asset are your people. And
Right.
if you're not leaning into what your people are saying, and not just hearing,
Yeah.
not just listening, but taking some actions
That's right.
um, to meet your people where they need you as an organization to be,
That's right.
um, to create that better employee experience. Um, you're totally missing the mark.
That's right. And I'll
So
tell you, because guess what? People have choices now. They have more choices now than they probably had in years,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Whether it's, the working remote, or, wanting to work, maybe a hybrid,
Mhm.
so you've got to be flexible. If you kind of want to keep the lights on.
Well, in you know, I think the employment market right now is going through one of those ebb and flow periods
Hmm.
where it's kind of like playing musical chairs when we were kids.
Right.
You want
Right.
to make sure that you got a seat if the music stops.
Yeah.
And
I'm
and
totally using that example. I love that.
yeah,
Love that analogy.
and companies, they're trying to get anybody that can get onto a seat,
Yeah.
get in a chair,
Great
and they may be
point.
left with people that really don't understand, that really aren't bought into them, which is going to
Excellent
cause
point,
them,
Mark.
you know, more brand issues in the future, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well
So
said. Love
yeah,
that.
feel free to go ahead and use the musical chair analogy. I just kind
Done.
of I just kind
Done.
of winged
I'm
that
writing
one,
it
so
down right
it's
now.
all good.
Totally taking that. Okay.
It's all good. So one of the things that I really love about the work that you do, Felicia, is you're one of a handful of companies in the country that offer a certification program
Mm,
in diversity, equity, and inclusion.
yeah.
Um, can you tell us a little bit more about what this entails and why an organization, might find some value in having leaders and staff certified in DEI? Notice I said not just leaders, but also staff. Um,
Yes. Absolutely. So yes, my firm, the Gatson Group, is one of just a few in the country that's a licensed official provider of the globally renowned CDP, Certified Diversity Professional. certification, professional credential, as well as the CDE, the Certified Diversity Executive professional credential. And I am licensed provider through the Institute for Diversity Certification. I've been doing that for a number of years.
Mhm.
Again, very important, Mark, that team leaders and team members that not only do this work, but members of the organization become
Mhm.
certified, because this is a rigorous program that has expert level competencies that really qualify the individuals to do this level and type of work, right? I
Mhm.
mean, you wouldn't exactly, expect a plumber to come and do your dental work, right? Or vice
Gosh, I
versa.
hope
I
not.
would hope not, right? So I would hope not. And I love all the plumbers out there, okay?
Exactly.
But what I'm saying is, if you're going to do this work, let's make certain that these individuals have the skills, right?
Yeah.
Another example I oftentimes use is, if you're sourcing for a CFO, a chief financial officer, you wouldn't
Mhm.
walk out into a hallway and say, "Hey, anybody know math?" Right? Again, I would think that you
Exactly.
would be looking for someone with a certain level of expertise and professional credentials. So, with that being said, we're actually hosting our final CDP course next week, and then next year. I mean, actually, just I'm working on my strategic plan for my business for next year. So next year, I'm actually bringing back, drum roll please, in person. Thank you, the 3-day course in person for both the CDP and the CDE in the Dallas Fort Worth area. Also, during the year next year, I will be in Austin, coming back to Austin, and then pushing down a little further south into San Antonio. So, very much looking forward to that. Another thing that we're certainly doing is that we recently published an online diversity training course. So, for any in training, maybe as part of your onboarding program. The Gatson Group partnered with Ready for Next Academy, who actually powers the course. That course is phenomenal. It's about 2.5 hours of video content. It's micro learning over 7 competencies, everything from principles of inclusive leadership to supplier diversity and everything in between. So those are two very good offerings that are available right now.
Awesome. Awesome. I love the work that you do, Felicia. I know it's so valuable for the clients that you work with, the organizations that you've worked with in the past, and um, you know, I think it's so important for
Mhm.
companies to really invest in not just the murals on the wall, the actions that they
Yeah.
take, but really invest in getting some certified professionals into your organization, especially if you're
Yes.
an organization of size. I think it's so
Yes.
important. Um, so we've gotten to the point of this coffee talk, what I call the speed round. Are you
Oh,
ready for
whoa,
this?
whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. I think I'm ready for it.
I
Okay.
promise no Dallas Cowboy questions here.
Okay, hold on. What? 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 Okay. All right.
So, Felicia, what fact about you would people be surprised to learn about?
One fact that people might be surprised to learn, that I am actually level 1 Krav Maga.
Really?
Hmm.
Man, now what did that entail?
Well, Krav Maga, Israeli form of self-defense. When I
Yeah.
lived in Nashville, I trained with a local provider there, and so I achieved the level 1 status. And actually look forward to getting back into the gym here, maybe in the next couple of months, in a studio here in the Dallas Fort Worth area to take that to the next level. But level 1 Krav Maga, so very proud
Excellent.
of that. Yeah.
Excellent. I will never cross you.
I'll take it easy on you. Don't worry about it.
Excellent, excellent. So where is your or what is your ideal off the grid location?
Oh, that's easy. That's four-wheeling on my family's farm in Louisiana.
Nice.
Oh, yeah,
Nice.
that's easy. That just takes you to another place mentally,
Uh-huh.
breathing in the fresh air, being disconnected from just about anything you could be connected to. I
Yes.
haven't done that in a while, and trust me, it is long overdue. So
I think you're gonna have to schedule that in for yourself.
I know, I
There you
will. I
go.
definitely plan to here real soon.
Excellent, excellent. So all of us have been hearing these jingles, on commercials for years and years and years. What jingle, when you hear it, gets stuck in your head, and whatever you just cannot get it out?
Well, sometimes it's the nationwide is on your side.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
There you
so
go.
I'm trying to go to sleep and I keep hearing that because I've seen the commercial or whatever, but brilliant from a marketing standpoint,
Yes.
brilliant. So, but yeah, definitely probably the nationwide is on your side.
It's funny. It's funny with that one, Felicia. Um, Peyton Manning did some spots with the chicken
Yes.
parm, and anytime somebody says chicken, chicken parm sandwich, I'm like, chicken parm, you taste so good.
I remember that. Again,
I get
another
it.
brilliant marketing move, I'm telling you.
Yes, yes. So if someone wants to learn more about you and the work that you do, they're interested in finding a little bit more about what
Yeah.
the certification entails, how should they go ahead and contact you?
Oh my goodness. So first of all, email me, Felicia, Felicia, Felicia at gatsongroup.com, or you can go to my website, which is www.gatsongroup.com. Okay. So also on the website, if you'll go down to the bottom, there's a box where you can just fill out with some brief information and
Mhm.
schedule a session with me. And so that way we can talk, right? I can get to know you. Tell me a little bit about what's going on. See, that's another
Yes.
thing about a successful person in this space. You have to be able to listen and listen
Hmm.
without judgment, listen without, being, judgmental or anything like that. And that's about as far removed from what I am all about. I've never been that
Yes.
person, never will be that person. And so
Hmm.
I would definitely encourage any of your listeners to reach out. Again, Felicia at gatsongroup.com or Felicia at gatsongroup.com or visit the website. But yeah, I'm here certainly to listen, find out where you are, what's going on within your organization. Maybe you're like, okay, well, we need to do something, but I don't know what to do. I know we should say something, but we don't know what to say. So
Hmm.
again, let's start and literally have a cup of coffee and talk about it.
Excellent, excellent. And as always, if someone responds to me, I'm going to go ahead and point them in your direction. I'd be more
Yeah.
than happy to go ahead and do a virtual introduction with Felicia and anybody that's interested in meeting with her. Um, I can tell you, Felicia is probably one of the most authentic and genuine people I've ever met, and I love my conversations with you, Felicia. And I thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule to have a coffee talk with Brohawk.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, my friend. Good to see you as always.
Excellent. And we'll be seeing you again here real soon. Thank
Yes,
you.
looking forward to it. Thank you.